In the year 2147, something extraordinary happened. The sky above Earth changed in a way no one had ever seen before. A fleet of massive alien ships appeared in orbit, hovering silently over cities like New York, Tokyo, and London. These ships were enormous, their metallic surfaces reflecting sunlight in dazzling patterns. People stared up at them, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. No one knew why they were here or what they wanted. Daniel Carter was one of the many people watching the spectacle unfold. He was a young astrophysicist working at NASA's lunar base, far away from Earth, but close enough to see everything clearly through advanced telescopes. Daniel had always been fascinated by space. As a child, he would spend hours staring at the stars, wondering if there was life beyond Earth. Now, at 32, he found himself face to face with proof that such life existed, and it was far more advanced than humanity. Back on Earth, his younger sister Emma was also witnessing the event. Unlike Daniel, Emma wasn't a scientist. She was a journalist, based in New York, known for her sharp questions and bold reporting style. Her job took her to places where history was being made, and this moment was no exception. Standing on a rooftop overlooking Manhattan, she held her camera steady as she filmed the alien ships casting long shadows across the city. Her heart raced. This story could change everything: her career, her life, maybe even the fate of humanity itself. The aliens didn't stay silent for long. After hours of waiting, a message came through loudspeakers all over the world. It wasn't spoken in any human language, but somehow everyone understood it. The voice was deep and cold, almost mechanical. "We are the Krylos," it said. "Your planet is weak. Your species is primitive. Surrender your resources, or we will take them by force." The words sent shockwaves around the globe. Governments scrambled to respond. Military bases went on high alert. Social media exploded with panic and speculation. Some people thought it was a hoax. Others believed it was the end of the world. But Daniel and Emma knew better. They both felt the weight of what was happening. This wasn't just some distant threat. It was real. And it was happening right now. From his station on the moon, Daniel tried to make sense of the situation. He studied the alien ships, analyzing their design and movement patterns. What he saw troubled him. The technology was far beyond anything humans had developed. Their engines emitted energy signatures unlike anything on record. But despite their superiority, Daniel noticed something odd. The ships weren't moving aggressively. They seemed to be waiting for what? He couldn't tell. Meanwhile, Emma dove into research. She dug through old archives and interviewed experts, trying to piece together clues about the Krylos. One name kept coming up: Project Gaia. It was a top-secret initiative rumored to involve ancient artifacts linked to extraterrestrial civilizations. No official documents mentioned it, but whispers suggested it had been running for decades under the radar. Emma knew she had to find out more. As days passed, tensions grew. The United Nations held an emergency meeting to decide how to handle the crisis. Leaders argued fiercely about whether to negotiate or fight back. Daniel joined the discussion remotely, sharing his observations with the assembly. He argued that the Krylos might have underestimated Earth's capabilities. Humanity had made incredible strides in technology, and perhaps they could use that to their advantage. But General Harold Mitchell, a stern military officer, dismissed his ideas. "They're too powerful," he snapped. "If we resist, they'll crush us." Emma watched the debate unfold on live television. She felt frustrated by the lack of action. While politicians debated, ordinary people were living in fear. Stores were being looted, families were fleeing cities, and rumors spread faster than facts. Determined to get answers, Emma decided to investigate further. She reached out to Daniel, hoping he could provide insight into what the aliens might want. Their conversation was brief, but revealing. Daniel shared his theory that the Krylos might not know as much about Earth as they claimed. "They called us harmless," he said. What if they don't realize what we're truly capable of? Emma nodded thoughtfully. She remembered hearing stories about strange phenomena tied to ancient sites, places where unexplained energy readings had been detected. Could these be connected to the Krylos? And if so, could they hold the key to defending Earth? As the days turned into weeks, the Krylos remained in orbit, watching and waiting. They showed no signs of leaving, nor did they launch an attack. Instead, they broadcast occasional messages, repeating their demands for surrender. Each transmission added to the growing sense of dread. Humanity was running out of time. Unbeknownst to most, Daniel had begun looking into Project Gaia himself. He contacted Sarah Bennett, a geologist he'd known since college. She worked in Antarctica, studying unusual seismic activity near a remote research station. When Daniel explained his suspicions, she listened intently. Together, they started piecing together fragments of information that hinted at something extraordinary hidden beneath the ice. Back in New York, Emma continued her investigation. She interviewed scientists, historians, and conspiracy theorists, searching for anything that could shed light on the Krylos. One evening, while reviewing footage of the alien ships, she noticed something peculiar. The vessels seemed to react whenever certain weather patterns occurred: auroras, lightning storms, and other natural phenomena. Was it possible that Earth's environment held some kind of power the aliens hadn't anticipated? For now, the truth remained elusive, but Daniel, Emma, and Sarah each felt a glimmer of hope. If Earth really did possess hidden strengths, then maybe humanity stood a chance after all. The question was whether they could uncover those secrets in time to stop the Krylos and prove once and for all that Earth was anything but harmless. The world was in chaos. The arrival of the Krylos had turned everything upside down. Governments argued, people panicked, and the aliens remained ominously silent, their massive ships still hovering above Earth's cities. It seemed like every decision made by leaders only deepened the divide between nations. Some countries wanted to negotiate with the Krylos, hoping to avoid bloodshed. Others believed that showing strength was the only way to survive. Among those caught in the middle were Daniel Carter, his sister Emma, and Sarah Bennett, each trying to make sense of the situation in their own way. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, representatives from around the globe gathered for another tense meeting. The room buzzed with heated debates. On one side, diplomats urged calm, suggesting that humanity should try to communicate peacefully with the Krylos. If we show them we mean no harm, maybe they'll spare us, said a representative from Sweden. But on the other side, military leaders like General Harold Mitchell pushed for immediate action. Peace talks won't save us if they decide to attack, he growled, slamming his fist on the table. We need to strike first while we still can. Daniel watched the proceedings via video link from the lunar base. He listened carefully as both sides presented their arguments. While he understood the fear driving the military's stance, he couldn't shake the feeling that attacking the Krylos would be a mistake. Their technology was far beyond anything humans possessed. A direct confrontation could lead to disaster. When it was his turn to speak, Daniel cleared his throat and addressed the assembly. What if we're missing something? He asked. Their message called us harmless. Maybe they don't realize what we're capable of. If we act strategically, we might be able to use that to our advantage. His words fell on deaf ears. General Mitchell dismissed him outright. You're talking about theories, not facts, the general snapped. We don't have time for guesswork. Either we prepare to defend ourselves or roll over and let them take whatever they want. The room erupted into shouts again, and Daniel sighed, knowing his voice wouldn't carry much weight against the tide of fear and aggression. Meanwhile, Emma was back in New York, reporting on the growing unrest. She stood in Times Square, surrounded by crowds of anxious people holding signs that read "Save Earth" and "Fight Back." Protesters clashed with police, and the air was thick with tension. Emma adjusted her microphone and began speaking into the camera. "As you can see, emotions are running high here," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "People are scared, angry, and desperate for answers. But so far, none of our leaders seem willing to agree on a plan." After finishing her report, Emma decided to visit an old contact, a retired scientist named Dr. Alan Peterson, who specialized in ancient civilizations. She hoped he might know something about Project Gaia, the mysterious initiative Daniel had mentioned. Dr. Peterson lived in a quiet suburb outside the city. When Emma arrived, he greeted her warmly and invited her inside. Over tea, she explained why she'd come. "I've heard rumors about artifacts linked to extraterrestrials," she said. "Do you think there's any truth to them?" Dr. Peterson leaned back in his chair, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "There are legends," he admitted, "stories passed down through generations about strange objects found buried deep underground. Some say these artifacts hold incredible power energy sources, unlike anything we've discovered. But most scholars dismiss them as myths." He paused, then added, "Still, I wouldn't rule out the possibility entirely. There's too much we don't understand about our planet's history." Emma left the meeting feeling uneasy but intrigued. If even part of what Dr. Peterson said was true, then perhaps Earth did have hidden strengths. She texted Daniel, sharing what she'd learned. He replied quickly, saying he and Sarah were already working on something similar. They had uncovered records pointing to unusual energy readings coming from Antarctica. Could this be connected to the artifacts Dr. Peterson mentioned? In Antarctica, Sarah worked tirelessly alongside Daniel, analyzing data sent from the research station. The two of them pored over maps, charts, and satellite images, searching for patterns. What they found was astonishing. Beneath the ice lay a network of structures, crystalline formations, emitting faint but consistent energy signals. These structures didn't match any known geological formations. Something or someone had placed them there. Deliberately, Sarah ran simulations to test how the structures interacted with Earth's magnetic field. The results were baffling. Whenever certain conditions aligned, like solar flares or geomagnetic storms, the structures seemed to amplify the energy around them. "It's almost like they're designed to harness natural forces," Sarah mused aloud. Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "If we can figure out how to activate them, maybe we can use them against the Krylos. But unlocking the secrets of the structures wouldn't be easy." The research team faced technical challenges, harsh weather, and dwindling supplies. Worse, news of their discovery leaked to higher authorities. Soon, General Mitchell himself contacted Daniel, demanding updates. "This isn't just your little science project anymore," the general barked over the comms. "If you find anything useful, you report it directly to me." "Understood." Daniel hesitated before responding. He didn't trust Mitchell's intentions, but he knew keeping the general in the dark wasn't an option either. For now, all he could do was keep working and hope they could stay one step ahead. Back in New York, Emma continued her investigation. She visited libraries, scoured archives, and interviewed anyone who might have information about ancient energy sources. One evening, while going through dusty manuscripts in a university library, she stumbled upon a map marked with strange symbols. The map showed locations scattered across the globe, including Antarctica. At the center of the map was a single phrase written in Latin, Potentia Terrae, power of the earth. Emma's heart raced. Could this be the key to understanding what the Krylos were after? And more importantly, could it help humanity fight back? She took photos of the map and sent them to Daniel and Sarah. Within minutes, they responded, confirming that the coordinates matched the locations of the crystalline structures they'd been studying. For the first time since the Krylos arrived, there was a glimmer of hope. Maybe Earth wasn't as defenseless as everyone thought, but unraveling its secrets would require teamwork, bravery, and a willingness to take risks. As Emma packed up her things and headed home, she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and dread. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear: humanity's fate rested on uncovering the truth and proving once and for all that Earth was anything but harmless. Daniel and Sarah worked late into the night, their eyes glued to the glowing screens in front of them. The data from Antarctica was overwhelming, but they couldn't afford to slow down. Every second mattered. The crystalline structures beneath the ice were unlike anything they'd ever seen before. Their energy patterns shifted unpredictably, responding to changes in Earth's magnetic field and even distant cosmic events. It was as if the structures were alive, waiting for something or someone to awaken them. Sarah leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "This is insane," she muttered. "If we're right about these things, then whoever built them knew exactly what they were doing. They designed them to protect Earth." Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "But how? Do we activate them? There has to be a trigger, a way to make them work." The two of them had spent hours analyzing the symbols etched into the crystals. Some looked like ancient writing, while others resembled mathematical equations. Emma's map had been a breakthrough, confirming that similar structures existed in other parts of the world. But understanding their purpose was another challenge entirely. As dawn broke over the icy landscape, Sarah noticed something new in the data. A faint signal had appeared, pulsing in rhythm with Earth's rotation. It wasn't coming from the crystals themselves, but seemed to originate deeper underground. "Daniel, look at this," she said, pointing to her screen. "It's almost like a heartbeat." Daniel frowned, leaning closer. "A heartbeat," he repeated. "You think it's connected to the structures?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "But whatever it is, it's powerful. If we can tap into it, maybe we can figure out how to use the crystals." Back in New York, Emma was piecing together her own discoveries. After finding the map, she had dug deeper into old texts and records. One name kept appearing: an archaeologist named Dr. Emily Grant, who had vanished decades ago while studying mysterious ruins in Egypt. According to rumors, Dr. Grant had uncovered evidence of an ancient civilization capable of manipulating Earth's natural forces. Her work had been classified, and she had disappeared shortly afterward. Emma tracked down a former colleague of Dr. Grant's, a retired professor named Richard Hayes. He lived in a small apartment filled with books and artifacts. When Emma knocked on his door, he greeted her cautiously. After explaining her mission, she showed him the map and asked if he recognized it. Hayes studied the map for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he sighed. "Emily always believed there was more to Earth than met the eye," he said softly. "She thought our planet had its own defense systems, something left behind by an advanced race long gone. But no one believed her. They called her crazy. Do you think she found proof?" Emma pressed. Hayes hesitated. "Before she disappeared, she sent me a letter. In it, she mentioned coordinates in Egypt, near the Great Pyramid. She said she'd found something buried. There's something that could change everything." Emma thanked him and left, her mind spinning. If Dr. Grant's discovery was real, it could hold the key to activating the crystalline structures. She immediately contacted Daniel and Sarah, sharing what she'd learned. Together, they agreed that Egypt might be their next lead. While the trio worked tirelessly to unravel Earth's secrets, tensions continued to rise around the globe. General Mitchell grew impatient, demanding updates from Daniel and Sarah. When they told him about the potential connection between the structures and ancient civilizations, he dismissed it as nonsense. "We don't have time for fairy tales," he snapped. "Focus on something practical." But not everyone shared his skepticism. Emma's reports were gaining attention, sparking public interest in the possibility of Earth's hidden power. Social media buzzed with theories and speculation. Some people accused the government of hiding the truth, while others rallied behind the idea that humanity could fight back if given the chance. For the first time since the Krylos arrived, hope began to spread. Meanwhile, The Krylos remained eerily silent. Their ships still orbited Earth, casting long shadows over cities and towns. People watched nervously, wondering when or if they would strike. Then, without warning, the aliens broadcast another message. This time, the tone was different. Instead of arrogance, there was a hint of unease. "You have resisted our demands," the cold voice declared. "Your refusal will not go unpunished. Prepare yourselves." The announcement sent shockwaves through the world. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses, though most knew it was futile against the Krylos' superior technology. Panic spread, faster than ever. Stores were emptied, streets were deserted, and families huddled together, bracing for the worst. Emma watched the broadcast from her apartment, feeling a mix of anger and determination. She called Daniel. "They're scared," she said firmly. "They wouldn't threaten us unless they felt threatened themselves." "You're right," Daniel replied. "Which means we're on to something. Whatever these structures are, the Krylos know about the mand. They're worried." Sarah chimed in, her voice excited. "I think I've found something else. Look at this." She shared a new set of readings, showing increased activity in the crystalline structures. The pulse they'd detected earlier was growing stronger, almost as if it were responding to the Krylos' presence. "What does it mean?" Emma asked. "It means we're running out of time," Daniel said grimly. "If we don't figure out how to activate these things soon, the Krylos might demand us before we even get the chance." The three of them agreed to meet in Egypt as soon as possible. Emma booked a flight, while Daniel and Sarah prepared to leave Antarctica. It was a risky move, but they had no choice. If Dr. Grant's discovery really did exist, it could be the missing piece they needed to unlock Earth's true power. As Emma packed her bags, she thought about everything that had happened. Just weeks ago, she had been an ordinary journalist chasing stories. Now, she was part of a team trying to save the planet. It was terrifying, exhilarating, and completely surreal. But one thing was certain: failure wasn't an option. Across the globe, people held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The Krylos loomed overhead, their intentions unclear. But deep beneath the surface, Earth stirred, awakening to the threat above. And somewhere in the deserts of Egypt, a secret lay, buried waiting to be uncovered. The journey to Egypt was long and tense. Emma arrived first, her mind racing as she stepped off the plane into the dry desert air. She had never been to this part of the world before, and the vast emptiness of the landscape made her feel both small and determined. Daniel and Sarah would join her soon, but for now, she was alone with her thoughts and the weight of what they were about to uncover. She rented a jeep and drove toward the coordinates Dr. Emily Grant had mentioned in her letter. The area was remote, far from the tourist-filled pyramids of Giza. As she approached, the scenery changed dramatically. Sand dunes gave way to rocky terrain, and ancient ruins began to appear on the horizon. These weren't the grand structures tourists flocked to see. They were crumbling remnants of something much older, forgotten by time, but not entirely erased. Emma parked the jeep near a cluster of stone blocks half buried in the sand. She grabbed her camera and notebook, stepping carefully over the uneven ground. Her heart pounded as she examined the carvings etched into the rocks. They matched the symbols on the map she'd found earlier, the same ones Daniel and Sarah had been studying in Antarctica. It was unmistakable. This place was connected. As she explored further, she noticed a narrow opening in the ground, partially hidden by sand. Kneeling down, she brushed away the dirt and pebbles, revealing smooth stone beneath. It looked like the entrance to an underground chamber. Emma hesitated, glancing around. She knew it wasn't safe to go in alone, but curiosity got the better of her. Taking a deep breath, she crawled inside. The passage was dark and cool, the air thick with dust. Using the flashlight on her phone, she followed the tunnel deeper underground. The walls were covered in more carvings, intricate patterns that seemed to tell a story. Some depicted humans working alongside strange beings with elongated heads and glowing eyes. Others showed massive structures harnessing energy from the sun, moon, and stars. Emma snapped photos, her hands trembling with excitement. At the end of the tunnel, she found herself in a small chamber. In the center stood a pedestal made of black stone, its surface polished to a mirror-like shine. On top of the pedestal rested a crystal object shaped like a pyramid. It pulsed faintly with a soft blue light, almost as if it were alive. Emma stared at it, mesmerized. This had to be what Dr. Grant had discovered, relic tied to Earth's hidden power. Before she could examine it further, her phone buzzed loudly, startling her. It was Daniel calling. "Emma, where are you?" he asked urgently. "I'm at the site," she whispered, keeping her voice low. "You need to get here. I've found something incredible." Daniel and Sarah arrived hours later, their faces pale from exhaustion but eager to see what Emma had uncovered. Together, they entered the chamber and gathered around the crystal. Daniel ran his fingers lightly over its surface, feeling a strange warmth emanating from within. "This is amazing," he murmured. "It's similar to the structures in Antarctica but smaller, more refined." Sarah pulled out her tablet and began scanning the crystal, recording data. "If we can figure out how this works, maybe we can use it to activate the larger structures," she said. But just as they started their analysis, a low rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the light from the crystal flickered. Outside, the sound of engines grew louder. Someone or something was approaching. "This isn't good," Emma said, panic creeping into her voice. "We're not alone." They quickly packed up their equipment and hid behind the pedestal, listening intently. Moments later, heavy boots echoed through the tunnel, followed by voices speaking in a language none of them recognized. A group of men dressed in military uniforms appeared, led by a stern-faced officer. They carried advanced weapons and moved with precision, clearly searching for something. "Who are they?" Sarah whispered. "Probably one of General Mitchell's teams," Daniel replied grimly. "He must have tracked us here." The soldiers spread out, examining the carvings and taking photos. One of them spotted the crystal and called the others. "Over." The officer picked it up, inspecting it closely. "Take it back to base," he ordered. "Let the general decide what to do with it." Emma clenched her fists, frustration bubbling inside her. They couldn't let the military take the crystal knot when it might hold the key to saving Earth. But there was nothing they could do against armed soldiers. As quietly as possible, the three of them slipped out of the chamber and fled into the desert. Once they were far enough away, they stopped to catch their breath. "We have to get that crystal back," Emma said firmly. "Without it, we're stuck." Daniel nodded. "Agreed, but we'll need help. We can't take on the military alone." Back in New York, news broke that the Krylos had sent envoys to negotiate terms. The aliens landed in Washington, D.C., their sleek ships descending gracefully onto the National Mall. Crowds gathered to watch, some cheering, others shouting insults. Reporters jostled for position, cameras flashing as Zinar, the leader of the Krylos, stepped forward. Zinar was tall and imposing, his skin shimmering like liquid metal. His eyes glowed faintly, scanning the crowd with cold indifference. When he spoke, his voice boomed, amplified by technology. "Your resistance amuses us," he said. "But your planet holds resources we require. Surrender them, or face annihilation." Emma watched the broadcast, her anger boiling over. She decided to attend the press conference, hoping to confront Zinar directly. Armed with questions and determination, she pushed her way to the front of the crowd. When reporters were given a chance to speak, she raised her hand. "Why do you call Earth harmless?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the tension. "Our history shows evidence of advanced civilizations. How do you know we don't have defenses you haven't accounted for?" Zinar paused, his glowing eyes narrowing. For a brief moment, uncertainty flickered across his metallic face. Then he regained his composure. Your kind is primitive, he said dismissively. Your so-called defenses are irrelevant. Emma wasn't convinced. Something about his reaction told her he wasn't as confident as he pretended to be. Maybe he didn't know about the crystalline structures, or maybe he did, and that's why the Krylos were here. Later that night, Emma met with Daniel and Sarah via video call. They shared their findings and discussed their next move. We need to act fast, Daniel said. If the military gets the crystal operational before we do, they'll use it however they want, and that could make things worse. Sarah nodded. We also need to warn people about the Krylos. If they're lying about knowing Earth's true power, then we have leverage. Emma leaned forward, her expression resolute. Then, let's show them exactly what Earth is capable of. For the first time since the invasion began, they felt a spark of hope. The pieces were falling into place, and though the road ahead was dangerous, they knew they couldn't give up. Earth's secrets were waking up, and so was humanity's resolve. The days that followed were a blur of activity for Daniel, Sarah, and Emma. They worked tirelessly, piecing together everything they had learned about the crystalline structures, the ancient relics, and the Krylos. Each discovery brought them closer to understanding Earth's hidden power, but also made it clearer how dangerous their mission was. The military was watching them closely, and the aliens remained an ever-present threat. In Washington, D.C., tensions ran high as negotiations with the Krylos continued. Zinner, the leader of the alien delegation, showed no signs of backing down. His demands were simple: surrender Earth's resources or face destruction. Human leaders argued among themselves, torn between appeasement and resistance. Some believed giving in would save lives. Others refused to bow to an invading force. Emma attended every press conference, determined to expose the truth. She asked tough questions, challenging Zynar's claims and pushing for answers. Her persistence earned her both praise and criticism. Some called her brave. Others accused her of provoking the aliens, but she didn't care. She knew the stakes, and she wasn't going to let fear silence her. One evening, after another tense meeting with Zinner, Emma received a message from Daniel. "We found something big," he wrote. "You need to see this." She quickly arranged transportation to Antarctica, where Daniel and Sarah had returned to study the crystalline structures. When she arrived at the research station, they greeted her with grim expressions. "Things are escalating," Daniel said. "The Krylos have started targeting specific locations, places where we think the structures are buried." Sarah showed Emma a series of satellite images. Bright flashes dotted the maps, marking areas hit by strange energy bursts. Entire towns had been leveled, leaving behind scorched earth and eerie silence. The attacks weren't random, they were precise, aimed directly at sites tied to Earth's ancient defenses. "They're trying to destroy the structures before we can figure out how to use them," Sarah explained. "If we don't act fast, they'll succeed." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. The aliens weren't just here for resources, they were here to neutralize Earth's power. And if they succeeded, humanity wouldn't stand a chance. Back in the lab, the team focused on analyzing the crystal Emma had found in Egypt, or rather, what little data they'd managed to collect before it was taken. Though incomplete, the information hinted at a connection between the crystal and the larger structures. It seemed to serve as a kind of key, capable of activating the network buried beneath the planet's surface. "We need to replicate its effects," Daniel said, pacing the room. "If we can mimic the signal it emits, maybe we can wake up the other structures without needing the original." Sarah nodded, already working on calculations. "It won't be easy. The energy patterns are incredibly complex. But if we combine our readings from Antarctica with what we know about the crystal, we might be able to create a simulation." As they worked, strange phenomena began occurring worldwide. In the northern hemisphere, auroras appeared in unusual places, lighting up skies far from the poles. Lightning storms raged over oceans, striking with unnatural frequency. Even the ground trembled in regions with no history of seismic activity. Scientists struggled to explain these events, but Daniel and Sarah suspected they were linked to the awakening structures. "It's like Earth is fighting back," Emma said one night, as they reviewed new reports. Outside their window, the horizon glowed faintly, bathed in an otherworldly light. "Maybe it is," Daniel replied quietly. "These structures aren't just machines, they're part of the planet itself. If the Krylos keep attacking Earth, might respond in ways no one expects." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from General Mitchell. His voice crackled through the comms system, sharp and commanding. "Carter, Bennett, we've intercepted communications from the Krylos fleet. They're planning a major assault within the next 48 hours. You either produce results or get out of the way." Daniel exchanged a glance with Sarah. They couldn't trust Mitchell, but they also couldn't ignore his warning. Time was running out. That night, the three of them stayed up late, brainstorming ideas. Emma suggested reaching out to independent scientists and activists who might support their cause. "We can't do this alone," she said. "If people understand what's at stake, they'll help us." Daniel agreed. "But we'll have to be careful. The military is monitoring everything we do." By morning, they had a plan. Using encrypted channels, they sent messages to trusted contacts around the world, sharing what they'd discovered about Earth's hidden power. Within hours, responses poured in: scientists, engineers, even ordinary citizens eager to contribute. Together, they formed a loose network, working secretly to amplify the team's efforts. Meanwhile, Sarah made a breakthrough by combining data from the stolen crystal with readings from Antarctica. She developed a prototype device capable of emitting a similar energy signal. It was crude and untested, but it was their best shot at activating the structures. "We'll need to test it in the field," she said, holding up the small device. "Somewhere close to one of the active sites." Daniel chose a location in Canada, near a recently targeted area. The team packed their gear and set off immediately, knowing they had only hours to spare. As they traveled, they monitored news reports. The Krylos attacks were intensifying, spreading panic across continents. Cities went dark as power grids failed, and communications became increasingly unreliable. When they reached the site, the air felt charged, almost electric. Strange lights flickered in the distance, and the ground hummed softly underfoot. Sarah set up the device while Daniel and Emma kept watch. "Ready?" she asked, her hands trembling slightly. "As ready as we'll ever be," Daniel replied. With a deep breath, Sarah activated the device. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the ground began to glow. Cracks formed in the earth, revealing veins of crystalline material pulsating with light. The hum grew louder, resonating through the air like a heartbeat. "It's working," Emma exclaimed, her voice filled with awe, but their celebration was short-lived. Overhead, the sky darkened as a massive Krylos ship descended, its shadow blotting out the stars. Alarms blared, and red beams scanned the area. The aliens had found them. "Take cover," Daniel shouted, grabbing the device and shoving it into his bag. The three of them sprinted toward their vehicle, bullets whizzing past as the Krylos opened fire. They barely escaped, the ship pursuing them as they raced across the frozen landscape. Behind them, the awakened structure unleashed a burst of energy, sending shock waves rippling outward. The Krylos ship faltered, its shields flickering under the sudden assault. For the first time, there was hope. Earth was fighting back, and humanity was right there with it.